Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You sound good when you put the earphones on. Do you like that sound? That sound nice?
Sounds
Hey,
like I'm
Marco.
springing
Oh,
on
you
here.
missed it. I was going to do that.
Oh.
What's that?
ADSM? What is it? ASDM?
What's ASDM?
Audio sensory something or other. It's a fetish that people have.
What?
There's
Oh,
whole
holy
YouTube
shit.
channels and Insta channels with these recordings. People have recordings of them eating food.
Oh, my
I
God.
have seen
Eating
that actually. It's
food
so
or-
gross.
You've been
Yeah.
deep diving on this stuff?
No, it all started.
You know we're
'cause
rolling, right?
Oh, my God.
I saw that video of a turtle eating a lettuce leaf with the sensitive microphone like right there, and he's got this little mouth, and it just looks like a beak, and it's like, and it's really satisfying to listen to. And I was like, I can get around that fetish.
Well, it's funny that like some people find
Don't know
that
what-
super satisfying, and then there's the rest of people that find it just repulsive.
Some people, are you saying some people get off on it sexually?
No, I don't know about that. I haven't gone that deep.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
think so. I think it's just one of those itches just get scratched.
I did watch a
Yeah.
video the other day of a fruit bat being fed a banana. It's the fucking cutest thing I've seen in so long.
Oh.
It looks like jazz. It looks like a little jazz, but with beadier eyes. You know, the whippet.
Yeah.
And this woman's feeding it. She obviously rescued it or something. She's feeding it banana, and it's just like it can't coordinate its tongue properly. Like, yeah, it looks like a little baby. It's hilarious.
Animals are so cool.
Fuck yeah.
We the kids at home, they make chatterboxes all the time. You remember what a chatterbox is?
Wait, is that a little paper thing?
Paper thing, you fold it into quadrants.
Yeah.
And then you go like pick a color, and then you spell the color out. Then pick a number, and you do that.
Yeah,
How many times? And then you pick one, you open it,
Yeah.
and they love it because they get to you write things in it, and it's usually disgusting stuff, like really disgusting. And we try to get as disgusting as possible. And it's like you have to eat Tita's kitty litter, or something like that.
Oh.
But yesterday I opened it up, and it was just because you reminded me about the bat, and he was like, Wycliffe was like, you have to eat a COVID bat. And I was like, oh, gross. So, he's across that.
Welcome to episode 81. Welcome.
81.
81. Here we are.
We've really raced up the podcast numbers
Yep.
in the last year.
Yeah, we've been consistent. We've been very consistent, and it's gotten us to where we are. We'd like to thank all our listeners. It's true though, when we just make ourselves do it every week, it does get to a good place.
Yes.
I remember days gone by where we'd maybe take a few months between episodes. Nah, let's not do it this month. Do it next month.
Speaking of which,
Yeah.
when was the last time we had you on? Like, there's been 80 episodes, but you were probably on
I think I was on like
3 years ago type
yeah,
deal.
must have been 2018 at some point. Maybe
Was it the old gym?
no, I was here,
It was here.
but I think it was episode number 20. Maybe not specifically, but around
around there sounds
Yeah.
about right.
Yeah, or maybe even in the teens. Could
Ew.
have been.
Ew.
Yeah, so a while.
I'm mature now.
Here we are now.
Yeah.
We're not drinking coffee today. I didn't pick it up. But Tree offered. He's like, bro, can you come pick the coffee up? So shout out to our sponsor, Panavore, for providing the coffee that we drink on all the other days of the podcast. I'm a little bit bummed that we don't got it, but what are you going to do?
I had some Peak before.
Did you?
Not as good as Tree's coffee, but still.
You hit that often, don't you? The peak?
Recently I've been hitting the Peak. It's so yummy.
It get you through those study bouts.
Yeah, because it's just a little bit. Like
Yeah.
if you have one of those blocks, it's not as much as I guess it'd be like a weak coffee.
Peak is a caffeinated performance chocolate
Yeah.
who don't sponsor us, but we still like the product.
Yeah. Yummy.
Yeah.
Yummy.
Mate, bit going on with you. 60 odd episodes have passed since
Yeah.
we last caught up with you on the show. On the first time you were on, we were talking about your training background and going deep down the movement thing, and then hitting a bit of a wall with fatigue, right? Mm-hmm. Can you just kind of sum up what was going on at that point, what you came up against?
Yes, I was doing a lot of volume, a lot of body weight training, strength training, mobility work, floor work, the capoeira inspired stuff from Ido. And I guess I just was overtrained for a while, and I wasn't paying attention to how much I was overtraining. I knew I was always fatigued because just training like 4, 5, 6 hours a day for a while, probably like a year and a half. I wasn't paying attention to the little signs. Like now when I think about it, like the sleep was disruptive, a little bit more, I guess, irritable. Was finding it much harder to focus on daily tasks, which would involve like more sitting and reading, something like that. And that just accumulated over time until I basically just burnt out. And yeah, I couldn't do much training, and I got like in a way, I didn't have like chronic fatigue syndrome, but I was chronically fatigued in the sense that kind of felt like I had a bit of a cold, essentially, like low energy, would have big sleeps, wouldn't feel refreshed for probably 9 months. So I couldn't really do a whole lot of training, mostly stretching in that time. So that was in the end of 2017, halfway through 2018.
Okay. Fuck, it's only a couple of years ago now.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
How old are you now?
27.
27.
Yeah.
Damn, son.
Yeah.
Time flies, huh?
Yeah.
I love saying that to young guys. I remember when I was 27. I didn't introduce you. It's Marco. Marco's our handstand coach. He's at JB all the time. You've been coaching with us now for a couple of years?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, a few years now.
Yeah. Since, I mean, you were coaching
Since then,
with us at that time of that podcast, weren't you?
Yeah.
T's not with us today, but Paulie's here and I'm here, and it's the three of us. Where's things at for you now? Like, give us a snapshot, like in terms of your training. What are you doing, say, on a kind of weekly basis?
Yes, I'm doing, I would say, maybe not as much. I'm definitely doing less strength volume than I was back then. I'm still doing a fair bit of strength work now. Most of my training is hand balancing mobility right now. But I'm still doing a lot of the floor work and the strength work. So the average day for me would be do some hand balancing and mobility in the morning, study throughout the day, and then in the afternoon either do some strength training or floor work, and then do some martial arts, whether it's Muay Thai or grappling based martial art.
Okay. So 3 sort of sessions a day.
Yeah.
How long are you doing your hand balancing and mobility work for? What's that session look like? All the hounds take?
Usually 75 to 90 minutes, that session, but it's very low intensity. Like, it's still a very challenging session, but I think if you're doing hand balancing regularly for a couple of years, you end up getting to that point where it's more of a mental game than a physical thing, and still feels demanding, like on the wrists and the shoulders, but I could do 2 hours of handstands now, and it's not like I'm neurally fatigued. Like, if I did 20 minutes of hard deadlifting, I'd be like smoked. I wouldn't be able to do anything for the rest of the day, but I can do 2 hours of stretching and handstands. It's not too bad. But generally 75 minutes of that in the morning. Yeah.
75 minutes. Strength in the Arvo. How long is a strength session?
About 90 minutes on like, I'd say the average would be 90 minutes. And then if I miss a session, or something like that happens where I must deload or something, the next session I'll do a couple of hours, like 2 to 3. But that's every now and again.
Okay, nice. And the more recent thing for you has been the fight work, grappling based stuff or Muay Thai.
Yeah.
How much time are you putting into that?
I've had a few weeks recently of like deloading it because I was getting smoked by it when I first started.
Fire.
Yeah. I started doing jiu-jitsu here every night, basically. I was like, I'm just gonna do jiu-jitsu every night
Because it's so fucking fun.
Yeah, it is. It was when the restrictions eased and we could actually start grappling again. I was just so keen this whole year. I was so keen to do martial arts. It's been on my mind for a while. And when that happened, I was like, all right, I've got access to jiu-jitsu here. I'm here most days. I'll just do that every night. And when I started doing that, I started sleeping like an extra hour, like every day, basically. And then I added Muay Thai, like replaced a few nights, maybe just 2 nights of Muay Thai, and then I was still doing like 3 or 4 jits sessions, and still doing all the other training as well. And I did that for about a month and a half, and I was just sleeping too much, basically. Or not sleeping too much, but I was having to sleep so much to recover, and that was really impacting the I guess my ability to focus with all the uni work during the day. So I've reduced it now to about 2 to 3 Muay Thai sessions a week, and then 2 to 3 jiu-jitsu sessions a week. Usually 3 of each. Yeah.
Nice. One could look at that and say that's a pretty fucking hefty amount of training.
Yeah.
You feel like it's, do you feel like it's a lot for you? Or, because you're obviously, your perspective of this is a bit skewed to the normal person's.
Yeah.
Right? Which someone listening will be like, oh my God, that motherfucker trains a bunch. Do you feel like it's a lot, or have you got more room to play there?
I think it's a good amount for me. I think that obviously that if you were to jump into that amount of volume all of a sudden with like not much of a training background, it's not a good idea. You're not going to be able to do it essentially. But I definitely believe that you can increase your capacity over time. So like when I started doing more of like, I guess, movement stuff, the locomotion, the handstands, the body weight strength work, I was only training like an hour a day, and then each, whatever, 6 months or 3 month block, I would increase like 30 minutes. And I just kept doing that across 4 years basically. So yeah, for now it's good. Like I think it's a good amount for me. I could do more if I wasn't studying, but I noticed that there's only so much focus I have in a day. And I would say that an hour of jiu-jitsu to me is worth 2 hours of Muay Thai. Jiu-jitsu I find the most taxing, and then 2 hours of Muay Thai is probably worth like maybe like 3 hours of movement training in terms of like how much that energy,
Right.
how much energy expenditure each one of those would take. And then 1 hour of jiu-jitsu I would say is like 4 hours of study. Like that energy that goes into 1 hour of jiu-jitsu just absolutely wrecks me. So at the moment I've found just like the right balance so that I can still study throughout the day, and I'm not struggling with that. So it's good. It's good for me now. Yeah.
What are you studying, bro?
So I study philosophy and ancient history.
Snap.
Yeah. Yeah. Full-time student.
Ancient history. Why?
Yeah, so I guess like it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to study, and it was just a process of starting a degree because I knew I wanted to get educated and get a degree, and I knew I liked philosophy in the beginning, and I knew I wanted to do some kind of a double major or double degree, but I didn't know what to add as the second part of it. And it was just a process of elimination. I just jumped into a few electives, like a few science electives. I did a bit of physics, a bit of like astronomy, and then I did like an elective in mythology, and I just was so into it. And yeah, I guess that was just paying attention to where I was like most focused and most engaged, and it was that elective. So I was like, all right, I'll do that stuff. So yeah, I'm doing ancient history, but I've just changed into the major, so I haven't dived into it too deep yet. But the major will be like the ancient Egyptian history and the Near East. So that'll be the
Fuck yeah.
and philosophy as well. So that'll be the combo. Yeah.
What's the aim? I mean,
The aim.
obviously, I value education too, and it's awesome. It's interesting, and I have a curiosity for many things. And for you, is it satisfying a curiosity about something particular? And is there a goal for the study? Like, I want to work in this area, or what are you thinking that?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
You study very hard.
thank you. Yeah, I try hard.
Your scheduling is amazing.
Thank you. It's getting there. Still got room to improve.
Yeah?
Yeah. But I guess the initial reason was to explore some curiosity. I was like curious about these topics and I wanted to learn more. Now, like moving forward, I'm not 100% sure, like say in 10 years time where I'll be with it, but I definitely know I would love to be, because I'm still on the precipice of deciding whether I want to do, say, more like postgraduate study in philosophy or ancient history. So, and I'll finish the degree and I'll be in that position where I can go and do a master's in either one of those topics. And that will kind of be like a point where I could figure that out a little bit more. But
Sure.
but whether that's like, I don't know, like there's so many options there, just because it's also like a decision I haven't yet made which way I want to go. But if there's an opportunity in like a field of academia, that would be pretty fucking sweet. Or
Become a teacher or something.
teacher, professor, or like go into like
lecturer.
history, like I really like writing, like ideas, and
Mad.
who knows at this point? Yeah.
So you said before, like when we were before the podcast, we were talking like, what are we going to talk about? We're going to catch up on, what you've been doing lately. And we're talking about the training, and you said that study's the main thing at the moment.
Yeah, priority one. For
Wow.
sure.
Yeah, sure. So because we kind of chronicled your training schedule, are you saying you put more hours into studying at the moment than training, or is it just the priority and it doesn't? Like, how many hours do you think you study a week?
I usually study from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's basically like, I don't study that entire time. Like I usually break it into 2-3 hour blocks. If I'm feeling really good, if I've got some peak with me, I'll do like a 3.5 hour block, 2 of those. So it's between like 5 to 7 hours a day, also depending on the week. Like if I have an extra essay to write on top of the weekly readings and lectures to work through. So that, yeah, five to six, I would say, of study a day, more so to six. And then it's like 4 hours of training, 3 to 4 hours of training a day. That's generally 6 days a week. Actually, usually 7 days a week. Like I don't do as much training on a Sunday, but definitely a little bit of training and studying for sure on that day. Yeah.
That's a lot of like stuff that you're engaging in. A lot of it is like you're developing your own personal self, physically, mentally, academically type thing. Do you feel like you're not burnt out? Like is all the information sticking type thing at uni?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you're still making progress in your training.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that if I didn't like it so much, I wouldn't be able to do it. And that's
sure.
I think that's the main thing. Same with the training. Like I really like everything I'm doing, like the movement stuff and now the martial arts. Like it's so fun, and I find it like deeply engaging. Like I don't have to force myself to go to like a Muay Thai session. I don't have to force myself to go do some handstands. I don't have to force myself to sit down and like do some like philosophy or ancient history. Like I'm kind of drawn to it, but that's taken a long time to actually figure out what those things were. And that's what like helps me do all that. So yeah, I can sit down for 3 hours and watch a couple lectures and do some readings and summarize notes, and I'm not like, I don't feel fried after that. I'm like kind of energized by it. Like I'm keen to do more. Yeah.
That process of finding, what it is you enjoy the most, because I've known you for so many years and I've watched you, like I'd say, like if people are listening, like, how did he find that? Like, where do I get, like you're really heavily invested in all these things, but I feel like an individual wouldn't necessarily, they'd be very lucky to, trip over these things and just find out that this is the thing that they like. I feel like you've been very active in doing things and then like reflecting on them, trying things, thinking about what you're doing instead of just like, by chance coming across the thing that you're physically and mentally and emotionally suited for type thing.
Yeah, definitely
You know
not.
what I mean?
I liken that to kind of
Because you do goal setting and
big time.
and journaling and that sort of stuff
writing.
too.
Yeah.
You wouldn't just...
You do goal setting?
You got to go after it.
Yeah. Like I do like, I strategize, I guess, a lot. And I kind of think about like where I want to be in a year, 2 years, 5 years. That's kind of the general idea with it all. And that's where I guess I started, was actually more so where I want to be in 10 years.
Yes.
And how do I
had a few of these talks with you along the way.
Yeah. And how do I want to prepare myself for that? And it's obviously like a vague image to begin with. And yeah, I heard a good analogy. I can't remember where, of like if you're trying to start with that kind of thing, you just kind of got to pick the general direction. It's like you've got a bow, you've got an arrow, and you know your target is somewhere around you, but you're blindfolded, right? So if you just try and go for something random and hope for the best, it's like basically 0% chance you're going to hit the bullseye. Like it's never going to happen. But if someone just tells you, okay, it's generally in that direction, okay, you can turn that way and go, okay, maybe now I've got like a 0.0001% of hitting it. And then gradually over time, if you write, strategize, experience things, like go into things and cancel things out, maybe like slowly like more light gets filtered in, you can see a little bit clearer, and that target gets like more and more visible. But I think that, I'm still at a point where I'm trying to narrow in. It's still kind of got the blindfold on, maybe like a little bit, but I have a general idea of like where I need to go. And it's kind of, rather than me choosing, this is like the way I think about it, is it's not so much me choosing where I need to go, but I'm like getting guided almost by like something else. It's deep. Yeah. If that makes sense, like, I can ask you like, well, why do you like striking? Why do you like jiu-jitsu? And it's like, well, I like it because it's physical, and I get to train, I get to like chat to people, community. It's like, why do you like those things? And you keep going, and it's eventually like, I just do, like, I just like those things. And then that part of you is like the guiding part. You just kind of along for the ride, and you just do those things. And that's kind of what I'm trying to follow, that bit of you.
You might call it also, what do you call it? Values, core values type thing.
Yeah.
It's like your core values.
Like deeply valued.
Yeah. And you want to like, always be acting in alignment with your core values. So I'm kind of taking your, what you're saying, I'm filtering it back into my pathway in the last 5 years. And I was somewhere that didn't really align with my core values. Simply put, family and family time. And
Yeah.
now I'm somewhere else that allows that, and much happier.
Yeah.
And I know I'm in the generally the right place.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
cool.
there'd be a lot of people listening. I let you know, we're in a bit of a bubble here in this gym, in our own business, and you like, you know, being a part of this, and where most of us can be living in a way that's in line with our values, where I'm sure for a lot of people, they're like potentially not working a job that really aligns with much. It's just kind of providing the income, you know?
Yeah.
And so yeah, to listen to that can be like, fuck, like it's potentially inspiring, but also maybe a little bit confronting as well.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, there's always a sacrifice as well, right? Like, I feel very fortunate that I'm like in a position where I'm obviously got time more or less on my side, and was fortunate enough to meet people who were like good influences in
Like
the way.
me.
Yeah, definitely you guys. Like, yeah,
Uncle Paulie.
yeah, well, that were like
Brother Joey.
Yeah, yeah. We're good enough, I guess, in the way to give advice in like a mature way and go, you can actually decide, and to be around people like that early enough, I guess, is very fortunate. But I don't think it's ever too late to somehow integrate that into your life, whether it's like a desk job and you hate it. Like, there's always like time outside to pursue those little things that might give you a bit of satisfaction.
Yeah, I would agree. To some capacity, you can always take steps in that direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of what our gym ends up being for a lot of people, isn't it? You know, and that's like,
Step in the right direction.
yeah. And they're like, you know, whatever, I have to go do the grind during the day, or maybe grind at home with the family and the kids and stuff. But it's like, when I get to come here, I get to just, it's good. It's nourishing for my body and for my mind. And
There's a new ad campaign. Jungle Brothers. a
are
step
you
in the
grinding
right-
with the kids at night, grinding at the desk all day?
Jungle Brothers? A step in the right direction.
What?
Telstra broadband.
Well, I think that's
Boys.
well, I think it definitely would be like a starting point for that way of thinking anyway, because it's obviously like it's a little bit alternative. Like what we're doing here it's definitely not conventional, far from that. And perhaps that's just like a little bit of exposure to, here's a different way of going about a thing that you usually did for your whole life that you thought was good, but then you realized it was pretty shit. And here's something way better, and it's deeper and it's more enjoyable and you get more out of it. And then it's like, okay, well, that's a spark. And if it can translate to another area of life, then great. And that's, I think, what kind of happened to me anyway. It was just physically, it was like, do this stuff that's a little bit more, a little bit deeper, a little bit more interesting, a little bit more complicated, a thought out process. And then it was like, okay, well, I can actually apply that elsewhere and go and do it. And it works just as well as like trying to learn how to defend yourself or trying to learn how to do a handstand or anything like that.
So you mentioned before training of Ido Portal, obviously a big influence of, you know, on your training. And you know, for anyone that's listening that isn't familiar with him, he's the movement guy. He's a teacher. He's out there. He kind of gave birth to this name movement that describes kind of this approach to training, right? A perspective. There's that community in that world has its own kind of evolution, and I know that you're not 100% like drinking that Kool-Aid.
No.
Like there's parts of it that you really like.
Yeah, I guess I kind of flirt on the sideline. Yeah, yeah.
Tell me more.
Well, I did the online coaching, his online coaching programming, and I did that for 3 years, all up with a break in between. And yeah, I guess I met people that were balls deep into it and that lived and breathed it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I found that the commitment that it would take, say, to do, I think, is it a mentorship program? Is it mentorship program? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like that step deeper to get like to go all the way, I guess, comes with a lot of sacrifices, some of those like financial or time commitments, and
Basically detach your balls and give them to him.
Yeah.
These are now yours.
Which is like, I mean, I commend people that do it. I'm like, man, that is epic. But yeah, definitely stopped. Yeah, I guess I considered it, but it also stopped me from really like going that far. I didn't feel like I needed to actually be that involved in it to get what I wanted out of it, which is just to learn. Like I just wanted to learn like the process, and I wanted to learn about the body and yeah, he does pretty well with those things. Yes, I felt like the online coaching system is enough because you can just kind of dip in as you please. Like if you can do it in 3-month blocks, and that was the best option for me, is just to kind of go in and out. And you know, I know people that are still doing it or doing more than that, and it's cool to know them because then I can just like chat to them about what they're learning, what they're doing. And yeah, I guess it's nice to be in that position where you don't have to commit, like sell your soul to him.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, he buys your soul.
Yeah, well, it's almost it's like there's a privilege to that position because you kind of get all the good stuff, but you don't have to have all of the kind of disciple like stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas when you get close, when you go to that inner circle, then there's this pressure on you to remain there.
Yeah.
And to
Sounds
give,
like a cult.
well, yeah, I mean, you know, you could say it very much is like a lot of things, you know.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's like his website domain is like movementcult.com.
He does.
Yeah, like the student one. I'm pretty sure.
Really?
Yeah. The last time I was on there,
That's great.
and I laughed at that. I was like, he's definitely like playing on that.
Little bit of a
for
troll.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, so you know, we were talking about before, like we've known people who are in that inner circle, and when they decide that they want to kind of step away from that a little bit, they get fully what is it?
Ostracized.
Yeah. Is it incommunicated? Yeah, like this.
So I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard it happen to a few people. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Like, well, fuck you, you're out. That's it. Whereas, like, you've never been close enough to risk that.
Yeah.
But you can still get everything that you want from it.
Yeah, totally. And I guess like it depends, like what's your intention, and he wants to know that. Like, and if obviously for him, like he wants to train really serious students that are gonna carry on the torch, so to speak. And obviously like those top students speak for him. So he wants to filter out everyone that's not like gonna lay down their life for movement, and it's a great business model in that sense because they're all just weapons. But obviously the sacrifice is pretty big.
I think, I mean, we've spoken about this at length other times, but I think it's an okay business model. But I think that in, you know, what there is, the downside to that is that you create these people who never have the time to go and open their own gym. And so
it's a good business model for him.
For him, yeah.
For him, yeah.
Yeah.
Should be more specific.
But as soon as he's not there on the floor teaching them, grinding it out, there's no money. Whereas, you know, potentially if he was like, well, why don't you open an affiliate gym and we can do a commission thing or, you know, whatever, something, and you can kick back to me a little bit and I can come visit. Like he could, you know, and he wouldn't have to be the guy forever that's, you know, that's grinding at coaching.
It'd be hard to let go of being that guy though, being the top dog.
Well, I guess it would be, you know, I've not been in that situation on that scale.
Yeah. I imagine that would be really hard.
But it's I mean, you know, like we have, I would say there's almost a slight parallel on a tiny little scale of us here at this gym where like the gym was kind of built primarily by Tiora and myself at first, and then Alan and Paul, and then you, and then now Dylan and Nikki and Azza and all these people. And every time someone comes, one of those older people gets slightly displaced. And for us, it's been a desirable thing because we don't want to just be coaching the same things all the time forever. We want to have evolution to what we're doing and create new things and make space for new people to come in. And there's always that moment where you're like, oh fuck, like guys are going to Marco now because they want to know how to do an archer pull up. They're not asking me anymore. Right. But then like in that same moment, I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't have to have that conversation because I'm not really interested in it anymore, you know, or right now. And, you know, and this thing that I have contributed to is now operating without me. Yeah. So there is some, you know, I just think there's some real joy to be taken from that in that growth. And I think that is like the organism as a whole is then growing and developing rather than just top dog.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I said that as a pretty healthy way to be learning stuff. It's like if everyone could just help each other out and pass the information on, rather than everyone having to go to say one person. Which I don't know if that's the case with Ido. I'm sure he's like the kind of the heart of it, and he decides like which direction things go from. But imagine that like if you spoke to any of those people in his close circle, they could teach you pretty much anything that he's taught them like quite well. But yeah, there's obviously the side of it that's a little bit more like it's quite private, and so in this community here, like anyone can go up to anyone, and it's like a welcomed kind of thing. There's no like doesn't feel like there's like any hierarchy, which I would say. I imagine that like closer circle would have quite a tight hierarchy of who's who.
Yeah, 100%. Man, here's a question for you as someone who's doing a high amount of like movement style training, and then also getting into the fight work. And I think that any kind of jiu-jitsu practitioner will feel this. Jiu-jitsu and I'm guessing Muay Thai as well too, Paulie, you can confirm. It really tightens up the body in certain areas. Like it cinches things up in a way that, you know, the day after a heavy evening session, your hip flexors are smoked, your back's really stiff, your neck's all stiff. And depending on what you were working on that night or what was attacked during rolls, it could vary. So then the movement stuff is I find in that setting, it's quite hard because you then have to dig yourself out of that hole that you're in from the night before, those imbalances, to get back to like surface level, and then you can start to do your thing. Whereas I remember when I was training movement stuff and not doing any jiu-jitsu, I could kind of just be at surface level from the start of the session. You know, my mobility, I'd do a few sets, it'd go a lot further than if I was training jits as well.
So it's kind of like if you're doing he's saying when you're doing the jits, you almost, each time you go to do some mobility or some stretching, you've like gone back a step, and then each
you're
round,
in deficit.
It's like just doing the mobility gets you like a step and a half forward in terms of like how your mobility feels, and then the next day it's like back to that step.
Yeah, it's like the
2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Exactly. How do you feel about that? Have you had the same experience?
Definitely in the first month, I noticed like when I was doing a lot more grappling, like that month was I was feeling very tight, and the movements that required more mobility, I was finding a lot harder to do, like the twisting and the balancing stuff. But I upped mobility essentially. I was like, all right, just do like and not that I actually I'm doing that much. I probably spend like 20 to 30 minutes of mobility a day. I would say 25 actually a day, and that to me is like that is a point where I'm actually still getting more mobile. What I was doing was just like say 2 to 3 times a week I would do mobility, but just for bigger sessions and have more days in between where I wasn't doing as much stretching mobility. But if I'm just doing a little bit every day, I find that's like great. And a couple tools for like posture as well, like strengthening tools for posture I found is really useful. But maybe the adjustment period to begin with was actually the part that I felt the most, the biggest effect on the joints in terms of them tightening up. But then
most wrecked.
Yeah, but then after that, figuring out just doing a little bit every day was better. Yeah.
How do you find it, Paulie, with your fight training? Got the camp, you're in fight camp right now.
Yeah, I'm not very deep in it at the moment. We're just in the early weeks and kind of coming back from a groin tear still. So I haven't really thrown on the heavy volume that would start to break me down a little bit or lock me up potentially. I think in the past though, jiu-jitsu would be the one, less so the striking for me.
Yeah.
That used to, I used to feel like directly tighter through the back for sure. And the wrists, because I did jiu-jitsu before I even really started to do any sort of handstand type thing, but I can definitely feel as soon as I'm back on the mats, all I want to do is stretch out the wrists, or the handstands take a little longer to warm up into. But yeah, I definitely get that. Yeah, the striking though, I don't know yet, because I really haven't gone that deep into 3 years of Muay Thai, going to camps every year in Thailand or something like that. Probably on that sort of volume. I haven't really done that much.
But you've been training 2 sessions a week at a minimum for quite a while, haven't you?
Yeah, I guess. I don't feel it. I'm typically, I guess at my age or whatever, I'm not going as hard as I could,
Yeah.
for sure. So it's all I keep it very sustainable. I've got other things going on. Probably family's more priority in my life. So it's a very big energy balance. I'm not trying to wreck myself. So I'm crawling out of the gym every session. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So it's at a sustainable level. But yeah, I guess in general, I don't feel it. I'm not the most mobile person in the world, and I've never really done heaps of mobility work where I've worked to a really great point in particular positions, and I worked hard to get there. So I don't feel like I actually feel that the movement helps my mobility. Because
Right.
at the moment, more volume of things like high kicks and twisting and everything helps my mobility. I feel more mobile. Twisting and throwing punches loosens me up, and I'm a kind of a tight, explosive type of person. And yeah, doing lots of... I'm black. Basically. Thanks, John. Type of person. Yeah,
That's
so
interesting because like
I feel more mobile.
I would say like when we both do like a standing side split, right? Like I can almost get my like balls to the ground. How far deep? Like
Lucky
how far?
ground.
Yeah. How far can you get?
Me?
Yeah.
Not far at all.
But you can head kick, right?
I could.
Yeah, I can't. Like I can't head kick.
Yeah, it's technique. So I couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't a few years ago, purely because I didn't know where to stay loose.
You can kick a
And-
lot higher than I can.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You bend the supporting knee, you bend the high knee, but like yes, it's different though because there's so many
Yeah.
different kicks. You can kick. You could probably you'll have a much higher chance of being able to do a head kick that turns over with square hips
Right, I see
towards
what you
your
mean.
opponent, whereas
Yeah.
I will never ever get that. I'll have to turn my hips over, which it's a chess game that exposes another. It puts in more power, but it might expose you to something else type thing because I have to commit into mine more to get up there. A lot of lean back.
Yeah,
it's all
yeah.
hidden there.
We're like, cause for me, like doing the Muay Thai, like I get most tight in the like the upper body from simply holding like holding the hands up and the posture
Yes,
of having
yeah,
the
yeah.
chin down and
Yes.
the like shoulders protracted.
Yeah.
Do you get
No,
That? You don't
it
feel that?
definitely comes with time. I remember when I used to do boxing with my brother, I just used to go home with sore traps.
yeah,
Just really,
straight-
like
like
just
that all the
sore
time?
traps. Yeah. Comes with like relaxing and like just throwing the punches really loose.
Yeah, well, that's something I noticed when I've watched you spar. Is that quite relaxed.
Trying to get more
Bouncing
and more
around.
relaxed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's similar with jiu-jitsu, I suppose, as well. You're very tight and on guard,
Yeah,
trying to keep a bit of a shell when people are coming in. And the more you do it, the more you can be relaxed because you're familiar in positions and you don't have to be on guard because you feel safe there because you know the rules there of engagement in that spot.
yeah.
How do you find the transition from mellow stuff like handstands and mobility, and obviously the whole movement approach, right, to strength training and whatnot? It is a mellow, like it's intense in terms of effort, but it's mellow in terms of how the energy of a session.
Yeah.
It's quite protracted, and because it's a lot of training, so it's not like a it's not like a CrossFit session where you're going balls to wall for 45 minutes to an hour. But then you get into jits and there's a session, you're rolling, and then there's that, like all of a sudden when you're rolling or when you're sparring, there's a heightened level of energy there.
For sure.
How do you find that transition? Do you find it hard to get into that, like to kick into that gear?
No, like I played a lot of rugby throughout school, and so I feel, especially in jiu-jitsu, I've noticed my adrenaline goes through the roof when I'm rolling. For whatever reason, like I feel a little bit more comfortable, I would say, like striking. But yeah, I think having a bit of rugby training and being used to like that kind of like wrestling and throwing someone else around and being smothered and all those things, like it's not super foreign. But the difference in, I guess I would say it's the adrenaline for me mainly, is like the intensity of that is it's good. Like I really like it. And yeah, the transition from, I guess, the movement stuff, like some of the sessions I guess I do obviously nothing like rolling any of the jiu-jitsu sessions, because you're not dealing with another person who's trying to, choke you unconscious. So there's not that like that little bit of like life death fight there. But some of the movement sessions are like very, very hard. Like I would say, like it wouldn't be as hard as an open mat morning, but very, very close. Some of the strength sessions I'm talking about, like doing like rope climbs, lizard crawls, and split squats as like a circuit, and doing that for like 10 rounds, like those three have like, that's hell. Living hell, if you know what they are. And you do them in a circuit for 10 rounds, and it flattens you. I've thrown up so many times doing that. And yeah, I haven't thrown up from jiu-jitsu yet, but I guess it's different. I guess it's a different kind of feeling. But it's been okay. I feel like the rugby training and the movement stuff has prepared me well for jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
The movement training, especially for listeners out there, when you think of what are the disciplines that it's drawn from, we're talking about gymnastics, bodyweight calisthenics, capoeira, acrobatics, which all require lots of mobility and strength. But there was never really a part of it that did energy system development, because when I think of why you need to be able to go hard, be explosive, and then go again when you're not quite ready to, and push that sort of threshold. None of those disciplines really require that, because they're not put in a competitive place. I guess it's just riffing an observation of the styles. I mean, and now I wonder, because I thought Ido was getting into some fighting stuff, and the people, they play with the drills of fighting, but they don't go ahead and, like in the years that you programmed, was there anything where you had to do some sort of metabolic conditioning work? Not really. Like, but there is conditioning work.
I've had like a lot of like plyometric stuff, like sprinting.
Oh, okay.
Like,
oh wow.
Like it's like jumping stuff, like a bunch of that.
That's cool.
But I guess it was like more. It wouldn't be the main focus of the training, but that's just at the time I was doing it.
Yeah. It changes, huh?
And I think. I mean, he's got a lot of stuff, and it depends on the student. Like, you get to choose what you want to do. And for me, I was like, just make me strong and mobile, really.
Okay.
So I think if you were to say, like, I want to prepare, like, my ability to work in martial arts, then I'm sure you get a lot of that stuff. But yeah, the conditioning work for me was definitely some sprinting, plyometric work for the legs, and then like compound circuits, basically similar to what I just said, the rope climbs, the lizard crawls, and like a lower body movement in like circuits.
Would they manage the rest periods?
Yeah.
Or would they prescribe?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different setups that I've had for those circuits and stuff, but yeah, it's all prescribed and all set up. But yeah,
it's interesting.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to ask like a lot of different, because I don't really know super intricately like how extensive he's gone into like say that stuff, like metabolic conditioning. I'm sure he's done a lot, but I haven't done much with him. But that's just because I asked for other stuff. Yeah,
it's funny. Yeah, it's a real. You see it even in at the higher level of fighting, of combat, where you see athletes who really do prioritize their conditioning work, like they do really fucking grueling workouts that are just, designed to break them. And they do that a lot, and that just gives them this gas tank and this mental edge that, just makes them kind of unbreakable. And then you see fighters that don't really do as much of that, and they really focus on being evasive and having great strategy and, being super accurate with their striking or their grappling or whatever it is. And both, it all works depending on the individual, right? That you've got, it's kind of cool to see. And in a sense, I think you fall back on what you have. I know I've always, like in jiu-jitsu, I've always fallen back on my conditioning because I have naturally that kind of athleticism. Maybe not right now, but typically speaking, I need to be black. Maybe I am part black.
You eat.
From the waist down.
My man. It's an interesting thing, right? And I would think, like, say with Ido stuff, there is, there's elements of that kind of volume work and low rest and increased capacity. But I could imagine, even when you see him working with fighters and stuff, his style of fighters would be the ones that are like focusing on the accuracy and the skill and the strategy.
Yeah,
And
yeah, very specific.
yeah, like I don't know if I've ever seen, I mean, it's not like he created him, but I don't know if I've ever seen Conor McGregor doing like really grueling conditioning workouts.
Yeah.
It looks like he does a lot of like, you know, really quite technical stuff, you know?
Yeah, I guess like that stuff is like just an accessory to all of his other
Yeah.
training. Yeah.
Whereas like Khabib, motherfucker's doing conditioning.
Oh man.
You know it. And then when he when he drags you into those deep waters, it's like, all right, it's where the conditioning comes into play.
Those wrestling conditioning like sessions, they just look so messed up.
They're awful, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, we're getting a little bit of a taste of that now on Friday nights with Pavel.
So good.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a different vibe, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's another grappling art, but it's just the approach is so different to jiu-jitsu. You can see why. I don't know if you ever heard Ben Askren talking to Joe Rogan, but he was, you know, he's a long-time wrestler, fought in the UFC, but he was saying that he's like, jiu-jitsu guys are just fucking lazy. He's like, when you go to jiu-jitsu class, you're just kind of sitting around and it's like, do you want to train and do a bit of training, sit around again? He's like, wrestling classes are not like that. They're just grueling. And he's like, it's grueling, it's every day, and then you compete every weekend.
Yeah.
He's like, so as a college wrestler, by the time you've like finished college, you've probably had like over 300 competition experiences.
Wow.
So he's like, for those guys to go into the UFC, it's just another, like it's a bit bigger, but it's just another competition.
Yeah. So you hear those Thai guys that are just fighting like all the time. Every week there's fights. They're fighting. And yeah, they just rack up like hundreds of fights. And then it's like, it's just another day in the office.
It's real, man.
Yeah. Which is like watching Hamzat
Yes.
Chimaev. Like, I think I've heard him talk about that a little bit, where he's just like, oh, it's nothing like for him, like to go into the cage, and that it just puts you at such an advantage if you have that mentality where you're not as nervous, like you have less adrenaline, like you're not going to have like a huge adrenaline dump. You're just more cool, calm, collected. Like, oh, it's just huge.
Yeah. Did you hear he was also born? He was born in Chechnya.
Yeah, and like
During the war.
yeah.
So, and I think he's lived there through 2 wars.
Jeez.
So he's like,
He's my age. He's 27.
is he?
Something like that.
Fucking hell.
Which is just bizarre to think about.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's cool. Yeah, I love
I
watching
feel like
that
such
guy.
a pussy saying that.
What I want to touch on, I want to ask you, so, you know, relevant to your previous experience with the overtraining thing and that kind of thing, what are you doing now? That is, like, how are you safeguarding yourself against that happening again?
Yeah, good question. I would say I've experimented a lot with diet over the past 18 months since that experience.
I notice you do that. You go through trends. Experiments.
Yeah. And I'm finding like the more, like obviously the cleaner I eat, the better I feel. Who would have thought that? And yeah, like the less, like I'm finding the lower carbohydrate diet, like a more, I wouldn't say I'm strictly paleo because every now and again I'll eat stuff that isn't paleo, but it's like a modified keto diet, I would say, is for my energy and focus. That seems to be working really, really well. So mainly eating like a fair bit of meat, some fruit, not a whole lot, but yeah, meat, a lot of greens, like tons of greens. I'd say most of my diet is like a shitload of salad and like green veggies, basically. Yeah, and getting a good mix in nuts as well. Lots of fats, good fats. Yeah, and that's helped a lot, I think. And then dialing in on like the consistency of sleep. I've been a bit off the last week or so, but generally just trying to get into a routine of going to bed and waking up at the same time every day and not trying to mess with that too much.
How many hours are you getting?
Usually 8.5.
Man.
Like I would say, yeah, generally that's my average, but the past week I've had a few late nights here hanging out with people. So slept in a bit, yeah.
What time do you go to bed?
Usually I like lights out 9:30.
9:30.
9:30, yeah.
You eat dinner after you finish jiu-jitsu at night?
Yeah, I go home and like eat straight away and then have a bit of a wind down, hour and a half, and then go to bed.
What were you eating those years ago when you hit that wall?
Probably just like more of a standard diet, I guess. I'd eat like just anything, really. I was eating relatively well.
But there wasn't any standout thing that you were doing. You were just
No.
like breaking a law.
Yeah, I mean,
No.
just whatever.
Zeroing in on it now.
Yeah, and it was still good food, but just I wasn't really. I'd eat as much as I wanted, and I just eat whatever was still good. But yeah, definitely no specific restrictions there. And then meditating is also like really helpful, I think. And I guess I use that as more of a check-in thing. Physically, I mean, I use it for other reasons, but it's also a good opportunity to feel like how the body's feeling in the morning. Like I'd usually do it in the morning, and if I wake up and I'm feeling like super wrecked and super dusted and broken, I'll won't train hard that day. Like I'll still do a fair bit of training, but I won't like redline. And that's probably the thing that I'm doing most differently now is like I choose my moments to redline, and usually I'll do like 2 weeks of like really hard training. Like every day will be like I'll look at the day of training ahead and be like, oh, this is going to be like a little Everest to climb. And I'll do that hard for 2 weeks, and then I'll have like a little bit of a lighter week, and then I'll go again like hard for 2 weeks, and then have a lighter week, and then every like 6 weeks to 2 months I'll just have a week where I'll just mellow. Like this week was basically my like a rest week essentially. I still did a bit of jiu-jitsu, like a little bit of Muay Thai, some handstands, no strength work really, a few dips, but that's about it.
I saw those yesterday.
Yeah.
Are you programming it that way? Are you journaling, taking notes, or is it just more intuitive? Oh, this was a heavy week. This one's a lighter one.
Yeah, I've got a schedule. Like I've got it printed out, stuck
go.
on my wall.
Bang.
Yeah, every day is like meticulously planned. Yeah.
It sure is.
Yeah.
Tell us more about the planning, because I noticed like you're very good at it, and you got everything in blocks, and you've mentioned that many times. Plus, you've embraced technologies recently and got a new iPad that makes
so good
shit more efficient for your study, so that when you have your study blocks, you're getting more done.
Yeah.
Like,
how do I?
Were you always this way?
No, I was like the opposite of this. I think,
Joe, you're very good at this stuff too.
Yeah, Joe. Yeah, I've definitely taken some inspo from you guys.
Wow, thanks.
Well, I think a game changer initially for me was Google Calendars. And I saw you guys using that a few years ago, and yeah, like that's just like my bread and butter. Like everything is in there, as you guys I'm sure do as well. Like, yes, that was I think the first thing that really helped me start to just organize time, because I guess as a student you can study when you want. You don't have to, like, most of the time anyway. Like if you're just watching, most of the stuff I'm doing is online. You don't have someone telling you have to do the readings by this time this week or the lectures or whatever. So that was the first step, I guess. And that enabled me, because I love it how in that app, whether it's on the phone or the computer, you can see your whole week, or you can choose to see 3 days, or you can see 1 day, or you can see the whole month. So I love looking at the week and then looking and color coding everything and going, okay, each morning block I have this amount of time to do my training, and then then this amount of time to do my study, and so on. And I guess the way I organized that was just the training stuff is like obviously the second priority, and that the hours from like 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. usually like Monday to Friday are the GSD hours, like get shit done hours. I don't book any like doctor's appointments or anything like that. I try not to in those hours on those days, and it's purely for that reason. And in those times, I'm in that mode. I try and just go into like laser focus mode in those times. Obviously,
Super
I break it
professor
up.
mode.
Yeah. Well, I break it up into little blocks. That helps, but just getting into the moods, like when you got to go do like a training session, or when you're going to go do anything, like you get in the mode to like go do that thing.
You definitely look like, because you study here a lot in the office. You study hard. Like you study hard.
I try to.
I'm easily distracted by a fucking butterfly that goes past my desk.
Yeah.
But you're like, boom, you got the freaking.
I put the
what are they?
earmuffs
Earmuffs on.
Industrial.
You try to keep your eyes low,
earmuffs.
because if you're engaged with eyes in this office, and we've got a communal big hardwood table and stuff, it's very easy to go off track.
Yeah.
And Joe knows me better than anyone else here. Like, I've improved though over the years, haven't I not?
Yeah, you have indeed.
I was going to say with the Google Calendar,
I'll have a chat.
Photophily. Everyone's mate. About 6 months ago, I discovered the shortcut for the calendars. If you want to see the week, you press W, M for month, Y for year.
Oh,
that's a good one.
Yeah, I don't know what the 3 day one is, but you just press.
Maybe 3.
you just press the letter and it just like
Joey's
scrolls
got
through.
his up now.
Oh,
Oh,
bang.
nice.
Oh. Yeah. See what I'm saying?
Yours looks good, Joey.
There
Got
you
some
go.
purples and pinks in there.
Many
Yeah, I
color
think
codes.
that's a game changer. If you haven't got that going on or some kind of setup like that, I don't know how you're doing it, how you're living your life.
But I think it's one thing to have it, but then to actually
You gotta stick
use
to
it and refer to it and adhere to what's in it.
Yeah, well, that's the discipline part.
Yeah.
'Cause it's very satisfying, like putting the calendar together. That's the fun part. Like the hard part is, like you said, like actually living it.
Yeah. So what you review it daily for the day ahead?
Yeah. Or usually in the morning I now it's like memorized basically. 'Cause
Yeah.
I've just been doing it for a while, but it's I guess every like 6 months or so it'll change because I'll have classes at different times or whatever. I'll have to train or whatever else happens. And generally I'll just review it somehow, whether that's like mentally or if it's new, I'll look at it. And then in my room on my wall, I have like a few different like monthly planners like printed out, and I have just written on there like one for study, one for training, and on each day I have written what I have to do that day, or if there's like an assessment task due that day. And I have that like written out for like the next 3 months like ahead. So like, because it's happened to me in the past where I've gotten really busy and then there's like a little mini essay or something that I should have started a week ago. I had to start it 3 or 4 days before it was due, and I got it done or handed it in a day late, and that kills me. Like I hate it when that happens, and that's happened maybe like twice since I've started studying, and each time that's happened, I've like leveled up in the sense of how like disciplined I've got at checking those things across like the future.
It's catalyzed a development.
So it's actually a good thing to fuck up, like to set the schedule and fuck it up, because it's like a little, flick on the wrist. It's just, okay, don't slacken a bit. It's okay. You're going to fuck it up. You're never going to hit it at 100%. It's unrealistic. But if you can hit it like pretty well, then that's good. Definitely much better than not doing it at all. That's for sure. It's like something you said, I heard you say in jiu-jitsu. And it's like, if you shouldn't be comparing yourself to like the people that have been doing jits for longer than you or whatever else. Like you should be comparing yourself to the people that aren't at all, the average Joe. And I think that's kind of a good way of looking at it as well. It's like just compare yourself. If you didn't do that scheduling at all, then if you just did do it, you're just going to be that bit better. And I think that's, positive reinforcement rather than going, I didn't hit it 100%, therefore I'm undisciplined and useless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, Luke Tulloch, who's been on the show before, he posted on Instagram a really cool little graphic the other day, but it was, you would have seen it before. You might have even seen it on my IG, but it's 2 orange circles that are the same size, but one of them surrounded by really big circles and the other one's surrounded by really little ones. And the one that's surrounded by the really little ones looks way bigger. So when you look at the image, you're like, that orange circle's way bigger, but it's actually the same size as the other one.
Yeah.
So he's like, our brains think relatively rather than, I can't remember what the term used was, but he's like, so like be careful because you'll trip yourself up if you're always kind of referring to, the other person you're training against, or like it can fuck your perceived progress up.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
I like
fucking
that.
cool. I like that too.
Yeah.
Mate, that's your cowl.
Oh, that's nice.
It's pretty messy.
Some yellow.
Well, it's on the phone, so it's compressed, and I've got
Oh, yeah.
too many calendars open at the same time.
You
It
got
looks like a
multiple
mess.
calendars.
It does.
But I stick to that. I got one with my wife there,
wanna see mine?
and I got the one with the coaches and stuff.
Yeah, show us.
This is it at its messiest. I'd hide some calendars when I'm in a certain mode.
See if
But
I can get
that
mine
looks
up.
like a discarded Lego bucket.
For those
Random
listening,
pieces in it.
well, I'm hoping that you guys can get
Coloured
your
blocks.
calendars out and just look at it and
Such a
show
game
it to whoever's
changer.
next to you.
Yeah.
Google Calendar, man, it's free.
Yeah, free.
All you got to do is give them every piece of fucking information there's ever been about you. But here's the deal: they've already got it, so just
Yeah, that's right.
download the app.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. So I've got it like. I wish we had a like a projector like set up. And a
Oh,
video
God.
camera,
I'm gonna come
like
see
at
this.
Oh, that's Trey's nice.
like how Joe Rogan's got that like epic. Oh, I need to make it.
the more uniform it is,
Yeah. So that's the.
the
all,
easier
within-
it is to
Oofed.
hold on to.
That's the flow.
So you get
Yeah,
in
so-
train at 6:45.
Like I'll usually just do that, like
Home
close,
side?
close to home, because it's
Yep.
obviously if I come in here, I'll do more training in the afternoons, and,
Right.
and like feel a little bit more. Yeah, but generally, like I definitely don't hit that at 100%, but I'm getting good at it.
That is a fucking sexy looking calendar.
Nice, eh?
Sexy.
Yeah.
So for the people that can't see it, just everybody, I just have everything organized in blocks. So from 6 a.m. to I guess like an 8:15 block, there's a very specific time. That specific time is dedicated to a specific purpose, and then from 8 till 4, that's just studying, and then in the afternoon there's like a specific 90-minute block for whatever else. So the day just runs through chunks essentially, and I'm not chopping and changing too much. That's what I find is useful as well. Is really like blocking. If you have different things to do across the day, block the similar things together, so that you're not having to jump between modes, like a training mode, work mode, study mode. If you're doing like training, study, work, you're going to spend a lot of time going in and out of those different modes, and it's going to be tiring. But if you can just train, then just study, then just work, or whatever it is, like that's for me. I find like it's much easier doing that. Yeah.
I feel relaxed when I look at your calendar, but I feel stressed when I look at mine.
Yeah, yours. Yeah.
Well, I think 'cause it's on the phone. It's like yours is elongated.
I know
as
it's
well.
worse.
Yeah.
I'm showing you at its worst, so we can all laugh at it. But yeah, go be organized.
Yeah.
And
Mate-
yeah, keeping it consistent, like time, like you said, waking up at the same time and trying to do things at the same time, so that it can become more habitual for some things. It's easier to get into because you're used to doing that thing at the same time.
Yeah.
It's hard when you're like say working shifts though for some people.
Oh yeah.
and
I feel
even
for those
like,
people.
Yeah, coaching classes and stuff here where you know and you've got a PT.
Oh, it's
It's
always
like on the
gonna-
other end,
yeah.
but you know.
Yeah. There's always going to be a late night here, an early morning here, and just suck it up and keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brother, anything for you to plug? Any of your services that you want to put out there before we wrap it up?
I'm around. You know, if you want some coaching, hit me up.
Where do they find you?
I'm actually off social media right now, so you can go to my website marcocleos.com.au.
Oh,
And I've got my email address there, and you can email me, or if I'm around and you see me, I'm always
Is
that's
Cleos
Marco with a K.
MARKO
Yep.
KLEOS.
Nice.
Cleos.com. Yeah. You can find all my info on there. But yeah, social media cleanse right now.
I like that. How long are you doing that for?
I don't know if I'll go back, to be honest.
Right on.
Yeah, I guess just at this point in time, I don't actually need it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been off for like a week, been off the drug. And it was watching The Social Dilemma that I've had a love-hate relationship with social media. I've gone like in and out of it for years, since I've had it basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got rid of Facebook completely a couple months ago. Actually, it was longer, pre-COVID. And I was like, oh, it's just nice not having like all that there, like not checking it. That was
Don't
the
have to
main thing.
worry about
Don't
it.
have to worry about it. And then yeah, got rid of Insta, and I was kind of like, oh, it's just nice not having to check my phone. And that's the weird thing. It's like I have to check it, and I was like, well, I actually don't want to check it, but I feel like I have to. And then I watched The Social Dilemma, and I was like, oh, that's why, because it's actually like I'm being trained to
It's
check it.
fucking me.
And and it's like you are going to either train you're one of two positions all the time. You're either being trained or you're training someone else. Like right now, I'm training you to believe what I'm saying, and then vice versa. If you're going to train me to say something else or think something else. So I think like if you can pick when you are being trained, try and pick the most positively affecting ones of yourself.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And
Like it trains like influenced.
influence, yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like if you need social media for your business and all those kinds of things, it's a different story. But if you're in the position where it's just something that perhaps it's actually just bringing you more stress, then maybe it needs to go.
Yeah, see, you guys saw Social Dilemma and like took away all this negative stuff. I just saw opportunity. Just as a marketing man.
Yeah,
I was
totally.
like-
Yeah.
I didn't.
Sure.
I was haunted by the show.
Yeah, it's very haunting. But it's also like it's such a hectic leverage point, right?
Yes.
Like, and that's I actually had that thought this morning. I was sitting down at the cafe. I was like looking around and just everyone was on their phones, like people together, like sitting, having brekkie. And one guy had his phone, like him and his wife and a kid. The dad had his like, I don't know, maybe like a pencil case or a laptop case. And he had the phone propped up, like so it was facing him, had it turned sideways, and he was watching sport. And then the mum was sitting there like scrolling and typing, with one, she had the phone flat and she was like typing like that. She's like such a noob. It's like you use your thumbs. And then the kid, had an iPad and the kid was watching something on an iPad. And I was like, man, it's like, if you can be in a position to leverage off that, like, which obviously, the richest companies in the world are,
Yeah.
man, it's just like infinite money. But yeah, your attention is the most valuable thing. You've said that to me before. Time and attention is your most valuable thing.
Yeah.
And if someone's taking that from you, I think you have to be very careful who takes it from you. Has to be a good reason.
I like that.
Yeah, that would be my plug.
That would be your billboard.
Yeah. Choose where you guide your attention, I'd say.
Very cool, man.
Thank you.
Bro, thanks for coming back on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Very, very nice to chat to you boys.
Pleasure.
Awesome.
Guys, thanks for listening. You can find us at junglebrothers.com if you want any help with your training or any of that stuff. Our internship kicked off yesterday and it's full as. It's packed. There's 9 humans in it. We'll be doing another one next year, probably around March or April. So if you are interested in becoming a turbocharged coach and even maybe opening your own gym like Jungle Brothers someday, get in touch about it. Persian Yoga Workshop coming up on the 14th of November. That's only a few weeks from now. Ancient Strength Conditioning of Persian Warriors. Come learn it. And then Fight Night on the 12th of December. You cannot participate in the Fight Night unless you train here. However, you can tune into the live stream.
So keen
to see the violence that shall ensue.
Marco's going to be the timekeeper.
I'm going to mop up the blood.
Guy and hype man.
I'm going to mop up some blood.
Oh, I like that.
It's going to be, he's multiple roles.
I don't know what hype man actually means.
I don't know if he's got the energy for a hype man.
Well, that's what someone said. I told him, they said, how's Marco going to do? He's so chilled.
Maybe I'm happy to stick to mopping and
timekeeping.
Yeah, timekeeping. But maybe someone, if they want a pat on the back, I can be there for that. Don't speak to them at all. Just a little tap.
Yeah. Thanks, Paulie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marcus.
No worries. Thank you.
See you guys next week.
Joey.
Right.